brought you the most in-depth analysis and the top voices across government, across public policy, across the spectrum of industries and sectors that will get affected, impacted by this budget that on the face of it looks very conservative, very, very prudent. But when we dive into the details, there is a blueprint that is being readied. And it is on that path to maintaining sustained growth that will be driven by domestic consumption. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, concluding her Budget 2026 speech in the Lok Sabha after a marathon 1.5-hour address, she herself said 90 minutes to the Speaker, presenting a comprehensive economic roadmap that underscored the government's commitment to sustained growth, investment-led development and fiscal prudence. In her historic 9th consecutive union budget presentation, Ms. Sitharaman positioned the budget as both as a stabilizing instrument for the near term and a strategic blueprint for Bharat's long-term transformation. Now, at the heart of the budget was a strong push for public capital expenditure, which was raised to 12.2 lakh crore, reinforcing the government's belief that infrastructure-led spending remains a key driver of economic momentum, private investment and job creation. And beyond the core economic sectors, the budget outlined targeted initiatives in health, sports, tourism and women-led enterprises, reflecting a broader inclusive development approach. And throughout the speech, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman anchored her proposals to the long-term national vision of a Viksit Bharat by 2047, aligning fiscal policy with Bharat's aspiration to become a developed economy. Budget 2026-27 was framed not merely as an annual financial exercise, but as a strategic statement of intent, signaling continuity in reform, confidence in Bharat's economic fundamentals. Listen in.
This is the first budget prepared in Kartavya Bhavan. We are inspired by 3 Kartavya. Our first Kartavya is to accelerate and sustain economic growth by enhancing productivity and competitiveness and building resilience to volatile global dynamics. Our second Kartavya is to fulfill aspirations of our people and build their capacity, making them strong partners in India's path to prosperity. Our third Kartavya, aligned with our vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, is to ensure that every family, community, region and sector has access to resources, amenities and opportunities for meaningful participation. This threefold approach requires a supportive ecosystem. The first requirement is to sustain the momentum of structural reforms, continuous, adaptive and forward-looking. Second, a robust and resilient financial sector is central to mobilizing savings, allocating capital efficiently and managing risks. Third, cutting-edge technologies, including AI applications, can serve us as force multipliers for better governance.
So here are the big takeaways. Number one, let's call them out as they come sliding out of our specially designed Budget Day studio, viewers. 1. Capital expenditure. Public capex has been raised to 12.2 lakh crore, up nearly 1 lakh crore from last year or the last financial year. 2. The introduction of new Income Tax Act 2025. It will get implemented and effective. And I think the migration to the new tax regime will happen. Tax terrorism should come down. Tax compliance should become easier. Rupees 10,000 crore Biopharma Shakti scheme has also been announced. This should really push the rural and tier 3 and rural markets and also women-led empowerment and employment there. Government aims to lower fiscal deficit to 4.2% of the GDP for financial year 26-27. So at least bringing down the fiscal deficit. Big boost for labor-intensive sectors also, where job creation has not been openly stated, but clearly the intent has been very well defined. Also, high-speed rail corridors have been proposed. So let's take that further. So, and And there, let's look at the various sectors that get impacted. In railways, high-speed rail corridors have now been proposed, so that comes to the fore. Let's try and have a look at this. And I'm going to walk across as we call out the next one. The next part is there is a high-level committee. There is a high-level E-committee on banking, that is banking on banking for Viksit Bharat, launch of India Semiconductor Mission 2.0, and there has been budget allocation also towards this. 10,000 crore scheme for container manufacturing, 10,000 crore MSME growth fund has also been identified. Of course, there is the Biopharma Shakti which we talked about, an outlay of 10,000 crore has been marked for the same. University townships, 5 university townships are going to be developed across Bharat, clearly trying to push the education sector. It will take time for it to materialize, but then we are creating specific township for education hubs. National Institute of Hospitality to also be formed. She Marts to be set up to empower women entrepreneurs. And of course, they will be setting up of more NIMHANs or research institutes on medical and of course focusing on the health sector. Will this also translate into not just caring for the younger generation but also a significant population that is soon going to knock on the doors of getting 50 plus, and bulk of Bharat's population in the next decade and a half should move into the 50 plus category and a significant number into the 60 plus category in about 15 years. So is Bharat getting ready for that too? Let's go straight across right now to our guests who are joining us and ask them what they think. Sunita Reddy, MD Apollo Hospitals, is with us. Namaste Sunita ji. Such a pleasure to have you with us on the coverage.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Your thoughts on health getting the focus and the allocations that this budget is making towards the health sector?
So 1.1 lakh crores allocated to the health sector, but it's important to think of it not just as, an allocation to the health sector, but the building up of the healthcare ecosystem. So allowing investment into biosimilars, facilitating clinical research. I think these are very important first steps that have been taken to benefit the pharmaceutical industry as well as the healthcare industry, because this is where you build intellectual property. Moving on, by building the healthcare ecosystem, the focus on NCDs, which is non-communicable diseases, especially oncology, where 37 drugs have been exempted from customs duty, will make the treatment of oncology cheaper for all Indians. And the focus on mental health. So this is healthcare for, for Gen Z, which is stressed, which has mental issues, for the millennials who've inherited the gene that predisposes us towards NCDs, and for geriatric care. So it is, and of course, the third most important is the medical value travel, where 5 hubs will be created, and the portability of insurance, which will allow foreign patients to come to India with their own, foreign insurance. I think these are great steps forward for the healthcare industry and for the services sector, which she said will be 10% of global GDP. And that, of course, is a very meaningful impact, not just a number.
You operate and run and manage one of the largest hospital and healthcare chains privately. Now, are you just going to get bigger now? These 5 hubs that are being created, the non-communicable diseases focus, the focus, like you said, on cancer and oncology. And also, she very specifically mentioned medical tourism to develop Bharat as a curative hub or a cure hub.
Yes. I think that was a wonderful statement, because nowhere else in the world will you find a mention of an integrated healthcare system that includes Ayurveda, where we're even looking at exporting quality drugs to the rest of the world. And by healing in India, we're actually exporting, creating earnings for the country in foreign exchange, which is, I think, at this time very valuable. And it shows that India can really innovate at scale, that we can do this at 1/10 of international costs, and we therefore have a proposition for the rest of the world.
It's not just the cure, but also building infrastructure. hospitals
Yes,
and
yes,
also
yes.
medical equipment, designing, manufacturing medical equipment, also working on patents and doing our own R&D. Do you think there is focus of towards all of that in healthcare? Because just being a service provider doesn't suffice, Sunita ji. You know that
I
better.
think, yeah, I think the most important element is the human capital. They spoke of skilling over 1.5 lakh professionals in the healthcare field, and this will act as as human capital to facilitate the growth of the entire industry. Not just, like I said, not just for us, but for us to be able to export services and to be very relevant in the rest of the world. So it is, investment in infrastructure, investment in skilling, building the next generation of healthcare, because there's AI, there's digital, there's the emergency announcement, the focus on emergency and the golden hour, which showed that they really have a very deep understanding of what healthcare requires now and for the future.
One thing which you believe that the budget could may have missed or the finance minister may have skipped in this budget, but you hope will come as far as further policy outlines in the through the year?
No, I think they've done a great thing with the GST exemption on insurance, and we believe that will lead to penetration. We hope that we can do more towards incentivizing private capital to go into new healthcare infrastructure, because that is truly what the country needs. So maybe exemption on GST exemption on building materials. This could probably come at a later date, and maybe a 10-year tax holiday to give us infrastructure status so that we could invest in building new hospitals,
I
which
was
I think the country needs.
I was about to come to that. Incentivizing capital expenditure in the healthcare business, and also more importantly, ease of doing business, single window clearances, because that's also
Yes.
another issue. Because from putting the project in vision or putting it on a presentation to actually actualizing it, the gap has to be minimized.
Um,
You believe
I
that's being
think the
facilitated here, or it could be some more
so
could be
I
done
think
there?
the broad frameworks have been drawn. We need to sit with the health ministry and make sure that we ease the regulatory pressure while making sure that our clinical outcomes are intact.
Right.
So this is a dialogue that we need to have. There are, of course, 74 licenses that we need before we open, but we want to make sure that we deliver great clinical outcomes at scale. So it is a dialogue for the future.
I know what Mr. Pratap Reddy had to go through when he, before setting up the first hospital in Delhi way back in the 70s, and the number of times that and how long it took for that vision to come through in the 90s. He has told me about it. Let's hope it doesn't
Yes.
take that much of a time for us to progress and really become a medical hub for the world. Always a pleasure speaking with you, Sunita ji.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Let's go straight across now to Paramdeep Singh, President and co-founder Short Hills AI. Now, AI is something which was perhaps the fulcrum of the conversation before the budget, during the budget, and also after it. Paramdeep Singh, can you hear me? Namaste, this is Anand here.
I cannot really hear you.
Am I audible to you now? Is it better?
Yes,
Yes.
you're audible.
So AI, now the government's focus towards AI, allocating spends towards developing technology, generative AI, and using it for public good. How focused is the budget on that, and is it on track?
I think it's a step in the right direction. So I think the government has made specific investments and commitments on the AI sector. So especially the AI India mission, there's a release of another 1,000 crores. There's a specific sort of commitment to put up GPUs. So if you look at the AI sector, primarily three things are going to be essential: talent, compute, and data. And I think there is definitely a movement in all the three sides. So the government, the budget does speak about all these three separately and does give a focus on all of these three. So I think definitely a step in the right direction.
Okay, let me ask you, given the budget and the allocations, is AI going to take away jobs, or is it going to help create jobs? What is it going to do? Because everybody's seeing it as a disruptor.
Oh, I definitely think it's going to create a lot of job opportunities. So it's like the wheel, right? So when when the wheel came on, people thought that sort of it would take away jobs. When the mill came up, people thought that sort of what would happen to all the mill workers. I think the overall consumption just increased multifold. So in the long run, I think it's going to sort of open up job opportunities that we haven't even thought about. So definitely, in my view, it's going to be a big positive in the long run.
But as a country which also has a huge labor force, a demographic dividend, do you think enough guardrails are in place in terms of policy, in terms of vision of how much AI will intrude into lives, how much AI will enable, and where it will be stopped?
See, this is definitely a very nascent technology. So I'm not saying that all the guardrails are already in place, but I think as we move forward, things are getting better and better as we move on. So earlier, where AI could easily hallucinate into giving you, let's say, medical advices, now they put in guardrails and make sure that sort of whatever you get is far better and more nuanced. So I think it's a nascent technology. Over a period of time, it will definitely improve.
Okay, final question. One thing that you were hoping the finance minister would announce, talk about, but didn't.
I would have thought that sort of the overall investment could have been much more. So I think 1,000 crores were released. I was hoping that that much more could be released, especially from the startups angle, where I think most of the innovation is going to happen.
All right. So add one more zero, perhaps. That's what you would have hoped. Let's see how this 1,000 crore is utilized, because from policy to implementation, there is at least a 6 month to 1 year lag in terms of formulating it. Once it's in place, will the next budget have greater allocations? We'll have to wait and watch. Paramdeep Singh, thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
Let's go straight across to Union Minister for Culture and Tourism, Shri Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. Gajendra Shekhawat ji, namaste. Thank you for your time. Thank you for speaking with us at CNN News 18. First up, your thoughts on the budget.
The budget is further reinforcing the commitment to achieve our commitment to make our country Viksit Bharat. This is for the first time when the government have accepted all three verticals to keep our bouncing economy on track, to fulfill the expectations and increased desires of the country, and for the all-inclusive growth accepted as a duty. So it is not only responsibility, it is the government's duty, and I am sure that under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, this budget will pave the path to achieve with a leapfrog jump the target of Viksit Bharat and Atmanirbhar Bharat.
You're saying that it's got long-term vision. The opposition is calling it a listless, uninspiring budget. Bengal CM saying budget has no vision. Other states saying what is there in it for us, like Kerala and Tamil Nadu.
I think he has some problem, and I think people have stopped taking Rahul Gandhi ji seriously years ago, and that is why his party is continuously getting limited up to corners and corners of the different places in India. And nowadays, I think there is a problem within the Congress also, that they have stopped taking him seriously. If he is unable to see the development, growth and the potential which is being leveraged through this budget, it is his problem. I should not comment on that.
All right, we'll park it on the side. Let's talk about your portfolio, culture and tourism. There's a huge focus, medical tourism and also historical tourism, opening up sites and developing key sites across Bharat. You must be quite happy about this.
100%. I am so thankful to Honorable Prime Minister and also to Honorable Vitta Mantri ji that she has given a big thrust and focus to tourism and culture. See, India is a country which is blessed that we can offer flowers to fulfill the appetite of any tourist in the world. We have all the taste and the fragrances in our bouquet. Taking all the possibilities forward, Honorable Vitta Mantri ji have announced to create new experiences on our excavation sites, as we did successfully.
Right.
at Vadnagar on the Prime Minister's birthplace, and we created an experience there on the excavation site of Vadnagar, and whosoever goes, I can tell you with first-hand experience that whosoever goes there, he comes with overwhelming response. And the pride towards the nation, it increases manifold. So 15 such destinations where excavations had happened and major findings are there, we are going to create them as another vertical of tourism, and we are going to create them as experience centers. Apart from that, Buddhism was born in India. There is a Buddhist circuit in India which is from Sarnath to, it goes up to Kapilvastu to Kushinagar. There is another circuit in Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. Another Buddhist circuit is to be created that has been envisioned by Honorable Finance Minister through this budget to create it in our Ashtalakshmi Pradesh, our northeastern region. Apart from that, nature-based tourism, trekking trails, the turtle trails, they are going to be created. That has also been envisioned through this budget. So many such new verticals like, as you mentioned, the medical value tourism, the Ayush-based tourism, they have been leveraged by this budget.
Well, let's hope that there is more that is seen, because oftentimes the announcements are made and there is a gap between policy to implementation. Will this hurt this entire cause of Viksit Bharat? Mantriji.
No, we were already in discussion, and all the decisions which have been explained or narrated by the Finance Minister through her budget were well discussed with us, well discussed with the sector, and we have already pulled up our socks and created, started working to fulfill all the commitments which Finance Minister have envisaged and expressed through her budget speech to the 140 crore people of our country.
But Mantri ji, kuch reh gaya, or has the budget ticked all the boxes?
I think it is ticked more than the boxes which anyone in the country expecting except Rahul Gandhi ji.
Well, there are those who perhaps expected more within the opposition, plus some experts too. But you think the focus on tourism, my final question, the focus on tourism will also help generate jobs, because tourism is also a labor-intensive sector.
100%. We are working on to build orange economy in our country. Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Vitta Mantri ji have also mentioned about that. When we speak about orange economy, which is being identified as a new article of economy all across the world, and India being culturally diverse country, and India with such a huge potential of youth, able youth, to build up cultural economy, I think in the future, tourism and culture both are going to be the biggest driver of economy as well as the employment generation.
Well, you got another steep task and a challenge at your hand, and let's hope you are able to deliver the vision that this budget provides in your ministry. Gajendra Shekhawat ji, always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you very much. Namaste. Let's quickly move on, and we've got him joining us right away. Member Niti Aayog, Arvind Virmaniji, senior economist, author also. He's often joined us on our broadcast. Arvind Virmaniji, namaste. Always a pleasure to speak with you. Your first thoughts on the budget, which the opposition largely is calling as uninspiring and lacking vision.
You generate the skills and the jobs come. It's an unconventional way of looking at it, but the point here is that the government has kind of accepted this view, which I have been propagating for last 2 years, that and basically what the budget shows is that basically every sector, every industry program you will see now has a skill component in it. So this is a very important message which is being given, and I think it needs to be emphasized many times, because as I said, the conventional wisdom is not in that direction. But in my personal view, this is a very, very important way to generate jobs actually, because the job level, quality, income that they can generate is completely different once you skill. The third one, very quickly, is the emphasis on services as job creators. Now, of course, in the last few years we have rightly been talking about manufacturing, and we talk about both direct and indirect jobs. So, but the direct jobs are less than the indirect, and many of these indirect jobs are actually in the services, but they are generated by the manufacturing. So the great importance of manufacturing is in this uncertain world, is in diversification, in reducing risk. We have seen many kinds of risk coming from different countries, to the west and north and elsewhere. So manufacturing is very important, but the recognition that services can generate jobs at every level, from low to middle to high, is a very important, I think, message which is coming from this budget. And finally, the last budget had kind of conceptually divided financial reforms from non-financial. So the non-financial reforms have been going on at an accelerated pace for the last 3-4 years, 3-4 months. And the Prime Minister himself has referred to it, but there were the announcement of the two committees, the HLC on banking reform and another one on non-banking reform, which take forward this process. And then there were a lot of process reforms we can discuss if you want further. So that would be, I think, in my way of looking, the important things coming out of the budget for this long-term sustained inclusive growth in the way an economist like myself looks at it.
We'll get to the process reforms in a bit, but I have to ask you this: what has this budget missed out on?
See, the budget is really, as I said, one is one is the budget speech, which kind of incorporates what everybody is doing in a sense, right? Not just the finance ministry, but what may be happening in industry, agriculture, etc.
Correct.
So that is more of a message or direction, or putting out the government's view on various things. And then there is the so-called part B, or things which are connected to expenditures, taxes, and the financial sector, which comes directly under the finance ministry. So I think on the financial sector, I have already mentioned a number of things which have been announced. And on the tax side, we've already had the income tax reform. So it really was an issue of laying out the direction of the rules, simplified forms, etc. I think that part has been done reasonably well. The second was the GST, which is really not part of the budget, because there's a GST council that has already been announced. So really the only other thing was the customs part, where the finance minister has chosen to focus more on the process reforms, which are very important, and perhaps leave the more structural aspects of it for a later time, perhaps because they are intimately linked to the whole industrial policy, the FTA issues, the negotiations which are going on with various countries, etc. So that is a pragmatic judgment, but I'm hopeful that maybe in future budgets more will happen on the structural policy related to
you talked about one, policy formulation, the rules, process, but more importantly, the route from process to implementation. There is a huge gap, there is a lag, and then there are immense number of roadblocks also. Is that going to hold us back, or is that holding us back, Arvindji?
देखिए, अब you all depends on your benchmark. I have been in this thing for perhaps longer than, I don't know how old you are, but maybe longer than you've been around. But the point is really, the way I measure things is, okay, if we were earlier taking, let's say, 12 months, if we reduce it to even 11 or 10, I'm happy, because I've seen these things for ages now. I can see the young people are very impatient. I keep hearing points on social media ke GST mein ye problem hai, wo problem hai. That is true. But from my perspective, it's the movement. So yes, that is always a problem. We have talked about it in everything we do. But things are happening, whether we talk about defense procurement, the defense secretary, I heard saying that they
he's
are
going to be
trying
joining
to
us
again
next.
look at the
Ji.
procedures, reduce things. R&D, there's an announcement of a fund, but it's important to get the structure right. So if that is the intent which is holding up, where there are different views, where they are discussing and getting it right, then I think it's worth the time. I mean, just to mention one thing which has come up when I have looked at some of these things about startups, R&D, etc., is that when decisions are to be made about funding startups, you must have representation of startups on those
Fair
the
point,
funds.
sir.
Because the older people like us who are not used to these things, we look at risk in a different way. I mean, let's be frank,
True.
right?
True.
So I would
Nice
be
of
more
you to be very
conservative,
candid about
but
this,
I
too.
know how to pick a startup
Ji.
who then contributes to picking. So those issues are tricky issues which have to be resolved. So
Yeah.
if that is what is holding up, I am not
Sir, my Hindi
unhappy, and hopefully they will get the structure of those funds, how the decisions are made right.
Well.
I can wait another extra 2-3 months or whatever.
No, thank you, sir. Thank you for being candid. Hindi में कहावत है जिसका काम उसी को साझे. So you have to have the right person to also helm the a particular policy decision. In this case, like you mentioned, startups funds. You have to have the right people who decide and perhaps back certain startups and take that risk based on how the genre itself or the sector itself is. Arvind Virmani ji, thank you very much for speaking with us. Viewers, post-op Sindoor, this is the first budget, and there was a huge thrust and expectation that there will be allocations towards modernization of the force and also separate expenditure marked for capex, not just the operational cost. Let's go straight across to R.K. Singh, Defence Secretary, Government of India. R.K. Singh ji, namaste. Thank you very, very much for your time. My first question to you, Rajesh ji. Your thoughts on this budget? Has it given the armed forces and the military and the defence what it wants?
Well, the first thoughts are that we were seeking a 20% increase in our capex budget, and we've got that. We've got a 21% increase in our overall MOD capital budget, and particularly and most critically in the modernization budget, which is the money going to equipment and technology and new capabilities. There we've got a 24% increase from last year. So we are very satisfied. We think that this will be a great boon in terms of improving, enhancing the capabilities of our three services, particularly in the context of what we learned during Operation Sindoor in terms of what are the new capability needs in the evolving nature of warfare as it transpired during Operation.
But Rajesh, you'll know better. Year on year, there may be a 20% plus jump, but as percentage to GDP, many say that defense expenditure, capex on defense has to go up as a percentage of GDP significantly. So my question is it enough?
See, Anand, the short point is that we are not like the Europeans. The Europeans need to take it up to 5% because their economy is stagnant, growing at 1 or 2%. We are growing at a nominal rate of about 8 to 10%. Frankly, the services would have been happy even with a 10% increase. I insisted on a 20% increase primarily because I intend to ensure that particularly in some of our areas, particularly in some of our air power assets where we have capability voids, we need to fill them. So 20% or rather a 24% increase that we have now is more than adequate to meet our requirements. Of course, we'll have to sustain this increase.
But does that also account for the fact that a quarter plus of the defense budget goes towards salaries, pensions, OROP, maintenance, etc.? So is this enough? Again, I'm asking you.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking only about the modernization budget, which is 1.8 lakh crores as against 1.85 lakh crores as against 1.49 lakh crores last year. That is a 24% increase. And about the overall modernization of capex budget, which is 2.19 lakh crores, which includes a lot of other capital works, including roads and other infrastructure.
Okay.
So if you see the capex part alone, we've got a 21%, and modernization equipment part, we've got a 24% increase. That's more than enough. You'll find, you can talk to the services, they would be more than happy with this increase. Probably this is Only issue is that we'll have to sustain this in order to, because after all, you can't spend money that fast. A lot of the money gets staggered over time, given the nature of these contracts, which usually run between 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
So we are more than satisfied with this 24% increase, but I do expect a CAGR of about 20% going on for the next 5 years, and that I assure you will be more than enough to fill all our capability gaps.
You got to keep pushing. We thought we'll speak with you first before we speak with the service chiefs or their representatives to get their thoughts. But what will be the ratio of domestic spending, domestic sourcing versus external sourcing? A lot of this will be spent in Bharat, this money, this allocation?
Yes, so correct. I mean, we have a norm which we've had for the last 2 years, wherein 75% of this capex will be spent domestically. So out of 1.85 lakh crores, 1.39 lakh crores, 75% will be spent domestically. And the advantage of that is, as you are aware, that it also has a multiplier effect on our GDP of almost 2.4 if some of the studies are right. So yeah, I mean, you can rest assured this will be part of the Atmanirbharta mission, in the sense that 75% of this increased capex will be spent on through domestic funding in Indian rupees.
There is also this thrust on MSMEs. So within the defense sector, will this also fuel the growth of the defense industrial complex in Bharat, driven by MSMEs?
Well, Anand, right now we have some 16,000 MSMEs working in this sector who basically work in terms of providing the supply chain, the components for the big OEMs, the 16 PSUs and the almost 200 plus licensed large industrial companies. So yes, that is, those MSMEs are going to gain. The domestic order that I mentioned of 1.39 lakh crores this year minimum, probably more, because last year we did 89% within the country. So they will gain from this the entire value chain will gain, and these 16,000 MSMEs with more counting, all of them will gain out of this. And we do expect a fairly large and robust and diversified defense industrial base to come up in this country. The signs are all there for you to see. You will see some of these big announcements coming in the next few days about new tie-ups, new OEMs setting up shop here. So yeah, I mean, I expect this to catalyze the development of a very robust, very diversified, public-private, partnership-based, diversified industrial base for the defense industry in this country.
Shakti, Parakaram, Suraksha, all of this has to be self. It has to be from within. That's what they say, the strength within. Rajesh ji, commendations to you for your efforts, and you've been pushing and you've been very outspoken, and you asked for what is required by the defense of our country, for the defense of our country. But do you also see this as a very big step towards Bharat getting its own very, very effective Sudarshan Chakra all across the board? Prime Minister has repeatedly spoken about it.
Absolutely. It's very much part of that. We will spend more. Basically, you need to leverage the power of this growing economy, of a 4 trillion economy, to ensure that you get the kind of deterrence that you need, so that some of our smaller adversaries simply can't even look us in the eye. And even against the larger adversaries, you should have enough deterrence. And given the size of our economy, we can well afford a 2% share of defense in GDP, which is all we are really getting right now. And that is more than sufficient, I assure you, given the growth in our growth trajectory of our economy.
Well, looking forward to that. This is a collar-up moment on this conversation. Rajesh K. Singh ji, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for speaking with us. Namaste. Short break here on the right stand, and our budget coverage will just break away from this and focus on geopolitics, external factors that will also influence this neighborhood. Tensions escalate in the Middle East between Iran and the United States. Is the region on the brink of collapse due to an all-out war? Stay with us.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
To promote environmentally sustainable movement of cargo, I propose to 1. Establish new dedicated freight corridors connecting Dankuni in the east to Surat in the west. Operationalize 20 new national waterways over the next 5 years, starting with National Waterways 5 in Orissa to connect mineral-rich areas of Talcher and Angul and industrial centers like Kalinga Nagar to the ports of Paradeep and Dhamra. Training institutes will be set up as regional centers of excellence for development of required manpower for these waterways. This will benefit youth in the entire stretch of the waterways to train and acquire skills. Further, a ship repair ecosystem
Back live here on The Right Stand. Tensions between Iran and the United States have once again entered a dangerous phase marked by military signaling, sharp rhetoric and the ever-present risk of miscalculation. Iran is navigating significant domestic strain, including protests and economic hardship, while facing sustained international isolation. The US, for its part, has hardened its posture towards Tehran, citing concerns over Iran's nuclear program, regional proxy activity and internal repression. Donald Trump has said recently, and I quote, "Hopefully, Iran will quickly come to the table and negotiate a fair and equitable deal. No nuclear weapons, one that is good for all parties. Time is running out to make a deal to avert military action." Now, these dynamics have reinforced mutual suspicion at a moment when both sides are politically constrained at home and strategically wary abroad. Washington's military posture has been one of its clearest signals. The deployment of carrier strike groups, enhanced air defenses and additional naval assets to the Middle East is officially framed as a deterrent designed to prevent Iranian attacks on US forces or allies and to secure key waterways such as the Strait of Hormuz to block Iran's oil exports. The moment that happens, Iran is going to really struggle because there's going to be no money. USS Abraham Lincoln strike group is in the Arabian Sea. USS McFall and USS Mitchell are in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. F-15E Strike Eagle fighters have been deployed at the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Patriot missiles and THAAD systems have been deployed in multiple allied bases. And for Iran, however, these deployments are perceived as coercive pressure intended to force concessions under the shadow of military force. Tehran has responded in kind, conducting naval exercises, showcasing missile capabilities and placing its forces on heightened alert while emphasizing that any attack on Iran would not remain limited or contained. Iranian leaders, including the supreme leadership, have warned that a US or Israeli strike would ignite a regional war, drawing in allies and proxy forces across the Middle East. The United States has countered with warnings that it retains military options should diplomacy fail. Even as senior officials stress that Washington does not seek war. This combination of threats and reassurances has created an environment where deterrence is meant to stabilize the situation, but could just as well easily amplify the risk of misreading intentions. And for now, tension and diplomacy coexist very uneasily in this region. War is not inevitable, but neither is peace. What is the road ahead? Let's discuss with our guests. This is on a day when Trump has also announced that Bharat is going to buy oil from Venezuela and not from Iran going forward. So he is doing the journalist's job, the spokesperson's job for Bharat and its government more than Bharatiya government itself, Ambassador Rajiv Dogra. While Awad is with us and Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey. Namaste, Jai Hind to everybody. Ambassador Sir, encircle Iran. If Iran can't sell oil and the Strait of Hormuz is blocked for exports, Iran is going to struggle, especially the Ayatollah regime.
Well, if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked for exports, not only Iran, but the rest of the Gulf states would also suffer enormously. In fact, more than America, it is probably Iran which will enforce the blockage of Strait of Hormuz. The other thing is Trump saying that, there has to be a nuclear restriction on Iran and it has to accept it. Trump was the one who scrapped that deal. Otherwise, there was a deal between USA and Iran on the nuclear issue. So Trump started it all. Iranians find it difficult to accept Trump's word, as the rest of the world also does find some problems with Trump's words, because he rakes up the tempo whenever there is some domestic difficulty. In this case, the new revelations from Epstein, then he has his issues with regard to ICE actions. So he has some domestic problems. Europe, for example, has told him off on Greenland, and he's backed off. So Trump has his own problems, especially with Congress, which does not want him to go off on another war. Venezuela was bad enough, but Iran would be very unpredictable. So Trump is looking for an excuse where Iran ups the ante by starting some attack on one of the ships or destroyers or whatever America has all around Iran. But Iran is unlikely to do so because it knows that it will also get hit hard. So it's a game of brinkmanship, like sumo wrestlers who are circling each other. America and Iran at the moment are circling each other. But Trump is more likely to blunder into it for one reason or the other. He's just looking for an excuse.
Well, in this case, what happens is the Venezuelan formula is being applied to Iran, but will it work with Iran and the Khamenei regime and this region? That's the larger question. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, before I bring in Vailabad on this, the other part is that Iran also is struggling. It also doesn't have money. Its people are also facing the brunt of these sanctions and this entire isolation. General Pandey.
Yeah, so firstly, I think I'll just try to endorse, but a little bit, my piece is slightly different. Trump has no stomach for wars, right? Let's be clear, he may have great amount of a bluster and everything, but he's basically a businessman, a dealer and a deal breaker. Wherever somebody stands face off to him, he backs off and he will make other statements and all, right? So the latest statement which is coming about is conversation on nuclear deal, no nuclear and all, and all the time he pumped up and pushed himself to a corner by saying that if the protesters come onto the street, we are going to come about. He's moved the carrier strike group from all the way from to this place, from the PACOM to CENTCOM for exploitation in the thing. The bottom line is that one can't be sure that what is going to be intending, but he should not falter because he doesn't want to go into war. In fact, Midnight Hammer, if you recall, and we used to talk about it, was a compulsion under Benjamin Netanyahu, who forced him to join hands. So
well, he's just tweeted, General Pandey, I'm interrupting you. He's just tweeted the same thing. He's just said we do have very big ships moving in that direction. He's just said, POTUS has said on Iran, we do have a very big, powerful ships heading in that direction, as you know, but I hope they negotiate something that is acceptable. This has just been tweeted about 3 or 4 minutes ago, and while he's getting on board, he's spoken on Air Force One. He's dressed in a tuxedo and a bow tie and etc. But the fact is that this is what he's saying. So clearly he is telling the Iranians, you got to listen to me. You got to agree to a deal that I like, or I will not deter from using force. There is also explosions at the Bandar Abbas port that's been reported. Suddenly we may also see both overt covert actors who are present on Iran, in and around Iran suddenly acting again. Is that possible, General Pandey?
Yeah, it is possible because Israel has carried out the strike during the Operation Land Rise quite effectively from inside. But as we discussed in the previous conversation, that this time has been available with IRGC, with the Iranian regime to actually possibly neutralize those assets. But there are a couple of things happening militarily. There was a rush when there was a perception that about 2 weeks back, the strikes were likely to have gone through. And that is the time IRGC mobilized, opening up its radar locations, moving out its ballistic missile systems and all. So these are the systems which you carry out in terms of deception to lock in, find what is available, where it is located, so that you create a data bank to carry out a strike. But the challenge which comes out is that, yes, while their primary targets are going to be IRGC military bases, ballistic missile systems, storage sites, all those places, but will it result into a comprehensive destruction well in time? Because even in last time with Israelis' best effort, they were systems or ballistic missiles landing on Israel. And this time, Khamenei has very clearly pointed out it is going to be a regional war. So please understand that in Iraq, in other places in the region, there are enough elements which are supporters of Khamenei, including in America. If you see the protest, which is pro-Khamenei protest, which has happened on the streets of Europe and America, there are things which are happening. But these are all, I think, bargaining parlays which are happening in case he wanted, he had tweeted about 3 weeks back also when Lincoln was moving all the way, you know, it is transiting, that they are coming into location to carry out choke. I think the window for application of force is closing. I had anticipated that in case they wanted to carry out certain degree of strikes, should have happened by 31st of Jan or latest in this first week. Because after this first week, the pressures which are on Trump will,
I'm just saying there's still 6 more days to the first week. So, so we don't know. And it just looks like they just want to home it in, zero it in and whip up the frenzy and keep the IRGC on tenterhooks. The moment the IRGC is designated a terrorist organization, it gives them a valid reason to go ahead and strike even without being, provoked. So, while Awad, how do you see this happening? Do you believe that the Khamenei's time is now, it's like a countdown, that they will not be able to withstand it this time? Or do you believe that Iran has perhaps another ace up its sleeve?
Well, I believe in the second part of your question, which is an answer as well. The point here is very clear. America is not only going to attack Iran. America is attacking the whole global world. It is already wanted to block the Strait of Hormuz, because any attack on Iran this time, it will be devastated the global economy and the oil transferring from that part of the world. 40% of the oil goes from the Strait of Hormuz. Just imagine if the United States attack and Iran will retaliate, and you have Iran have mined all the water in the Strait of Hormuz, that it will take the American, even if they bring the regime down, the government of Iran down, it will take 2 years to clear all the mining from that site. So do you imagine what will happen to the Indian economy, what will happen to the Southeast Asian region, who rely much on the oil from this part of the world? So the war in Iran is not meant between the United States and to satisfy Israel. It is more to do with the American, make America great again.
But should they be worried about what Iran will do, or should they be worried about what can happen if Iran is not brought to heel in this region? If there's got to be peace, stability, and globally one of the rogue nations that needs to be actually tethered is Iran. That's the perception. I'm not saying right or wrong.
Let me ask you in this.
Let me just give me 30 seconds. I'll come back to you on this question. Trump has spoken. I just want to play that out and then I'll come back to you.
I mean, I certainly can't tell you that, but we do have very big, powerful ships heading in that direction, as you know. I can't tell you, but I hope they negotiate something that's acceptable.
Give us an update on where your thinking is right now with Iran, if you have made a final decision on what you want to do.
I mean, I certainly can't tell you that, but we do have very big, powerful ships heading in that direction, as you know. I can't tell you, but I hope.
Okay, so yes, Wailawat. So that's exactly what he said. I just hope that they accept a deal or they agree to something that is acceptable. That's what he has said. Yes, Wailawat, you were saying.
Yes, see, thank you I'm sorry for the interruption. The point I'm trying to raise here is very simple. The United States have creating havoc in this region, and all the countries in the region. None of the country in the region, by the way, wanted a regional war, except United States and Israel. Even the American applied the maximum economic pressure in Iran. Now they're applying the maximum, equipment have brought to this part of the world. For what? Is it for Iran? He said a month ago, you remember that Iran nuclear has been totally destroyed. Their ballistic missile have been destroyed because the Israelis are feeding the American that Iran is reviving its nuclear program. And that's why Donald Trump is coming to war in the region. So there is no question. Give me one time in history of Iran for the last 200 years that they have attacked any country except the United States, who brought more than 80 countries down and intervened in every country.
Well,
so I'm not
the argument. No, I agree. I totally agree. But Iran is not directly attacked, but the Hezbollah, the Hamas, the Houthis, There are so many other entities who have all been funded, aided, backed by them, and billions of dollars have been routed in that direction. Also, Russia's Ukraine conflict, Iran has bankrolled the kamikaze drones. All of these issues are there. Iran has been a troublemaker for a while in the eyes of the West, and especially America and the NATO forces.
That's the American
and that's a thought process. Now, people may agree, disagree, but whoever has the strength, who has got the ability to do it, it's not about right or wrong. Trump can do it, and he's doing it. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Have to wind up. We've run out of time. But yes, through Monday, we will keep our eyes very closely trained on what's happening in the Middle East. Thank you for watching. Namaste.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
To promote environmentally sustainable movement of cargo, I propose to 1. Establish new dedicated freight corridors connecting Dankuni in the east to Surat in the west. Operationalize 20 new national waterways over the next 5 years. Starting with National Waterways 5 in Orissa to connect mineral-rich areas of Talcher and Angul and industrial centers like Kalinga Nagar to the ports of Paradip and Dhamra. Training institutes will be set up as regional centers of excellence for development of required manpower for these waterways. This will benefit youth in the entire stretch of the waterways to train and acquire skills. Further, a ship repair ecosystem catering to inland waterways will also be set up at Varanasi and Patna. And C, launch a coastal cargo promotion scheme for incentivizing a modal shift from rail to road to increase the share of inland waterways and coastal shipping from 6% to 12% by 2047. To enhance last mile and remote connectivity and promote tourism, I propose to give incentives to indigenize manufacturing of seaplanes. A seaplane VGF scheme will be.
We've got the best panelists in the business, the best analysts here.
What is the strategic vision for Bharat going forward? Is there a plan? Are we working to it?
I think industry is going in with measured expectations.
Theme of this budget will be resilience, very turbulent times.
Before COVID, 17.8%. Post-COVID now in 23-24, 10.2%.
My appeal to the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister would be, please focus on ease of business.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
To promote environmentally sustainable movement of cargo, I propose to 1. Establish new dedicated freight corridors connecting Dankuni in the east to Surat in the west. Operationalize 20 new national waterways over the next 5 years. Starting with National Waterways 5 in Orissa to connect mineral-rich areas of Talcher and Angul and industrial centers like Kalinga Nagar to the ports of Paradip and Dhamra. Training institutes will be set up as regional centers of excellence for development of required manpower for these waterways. This will benefit youth in the entire stretch of the waterways to train and acquire skills. Further, a ship repair ecosystem catering to inland waterways will also be set up at Varanasi and Patna. And C, launch a coastal cargo promotion scheme for incentivizing a modal shift from rail to road to increase the share of inland waterways and coastal shipping from 6% to 12% by 2047. To enhance last mile and remote connectivity and promote tourism, I propose to give incentives to indigenize manufacturing